What is up, everyone? Welcome to the Early Wedge. My name is Nejad, and I'm joined today by Josh Mullenix. He is not only behind the camera, but today he's in front of the camera. Josh, how you doing today?
I'm good. I'm excited to be here. I'm channeling my inner pass first point guard. Like I'm here to set you up. But if somebody goes under the screen, I'm gonna take a shot. So yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Nothing like a cross-sport analogy. You're talking basketball. We are just 29 days away from NFL season. This channel that you're on is going to have a lot of NFL content, but we've got our FedEx St. Jude live chat to discuss. And Josh, we already have a lot of questions. The Ski Mask Boy is here. He says, what's up? But we have Joseph Boza in here. We've got Jack George, Jay Kev. Brandon is in here. A lot of you already have questions, which is great. Drop the questions in the chat. Hit the like button if you could. Josh, I want to get things started before we get to the questions. Yesterday on the Best Bets show, we had a pretty solid discussion on the Ryder Cup and certain golfers who may or may not be on the Ryder Cup. I got to get your opinion here because you're very well versed in this. I know you have an opinion on maybe who belongs and who doesn't belong. A lot of like kind of hot button names like Ben Griffin or especially Patrick Cantlay, Collin Morikawa, Cam Young, and got her up in the conversation. What's your take on who's going to be up? Keegan Bradley, who's going to be on this Ryder Cup team?
Well, right now, I think we can probably get 8 or so deep and on the U.S. side in terms of guys that are just on the team. Scheffler, Xander, Spawn, Henley, Bryson, and Harris English. Those are the top 6. And even if and for some reason, someone wins and jumps into the top 6, like those guys are going to be on the team.
Yep.
JT's on the team. That gets you 7. I think Collin Morikawa vibes couldn't be lower, but the golf prior to the last 2 weeks hasn't actually been like that bad.
Right.
So he's probably on the team. That's 8. I still think Keegan's on the team as of right now. I would put Keegan on the team as of right now. I think that some of these young guys, Cam Young winning, Chris Goddard being as good as he is, I think that makes it more interesting because those are 2 names that when Keegan won the Travelers, those 2 names were nowhere near anybody's brain. Not really. Right. And that was even before that was pre-US Open when Cam Young was kind of in contention there. So I think Keegan, as of right now, is on the team, especially with Ben Griffin kind of not refinding. We kind of did the thing with like John Deere. Now he gets some rest. Now he gets to go overseas. It didn't really go that great over there either. If he plays well, so at some point in the next 3 weeks, he's right back in it. But but we'll see. He doesn't have the name equity, so to speak, of a guy who just kind of gets grandfathered in because of how he played earlier in the season. But so that's 9 with Keegan. As of right now, I'm probably going Cam Young, Chris Goddard, and I think I'm on board with Patrick, who's kind of been on a stump. He was all day yesterday with this. I'm sure he said the same thing about
He said the same thing about Patrick Cantlay. Yeah.
Is that with the other guys that you can consider for 12, you don't know who's going to elevate themselves at this event, and you know that Patrick Cantlay is going to. At least you have evidence to believe that. So I think that's my 12. After Keegan, Cam Young, Chris Goddard, who I think is just playing way too good to not be on the team at this point, at least right now, and then Patrick Cantlay.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. The way Patrick McDonald was talking about Patrick Cantlay, it almost seemed like he was reporting it, even though he wasn't. But he is tied in a little bit better than certainly I am. Maybe Josh, you are as well. He was pretty defiant on the Cantlay thing. It does sound like a little bit of the old guard stuff, going to protect Patrick Cantlay there. I think a lot of this to me comes down to what happens over the next 4 days and next week, because I think Keegan could really precipitously fall and be in a situation where he just doesn't feel good about picking himself, especially if guys like Griffin and Goddard, or maybe even Cam Young, maybe even Sam Burns, like really step it up. But I don't really have a strong take either way. I think Cantlay is going to be on the team. I think Ben Griffin has a lot to play for, and maybe that we'll get into that maybe with our questions, because it's not like, Josh, you'd agree with me that like guys like Ben Griffin and Goddard and Young, and maybe this doesn't affect their play in a positive way. Maybe it's a negative way. I'm not really sure. But like guys like Ben Griffin in particular, who probably 3 or 4 weeks ago was like, yeah, I'm pretty much a lock here. And now he's probably hearing like, hey, people aren't sure if I'm going to be on the team. I got to think he's going to come out with an edge. Your thoughts on that type of like narrative shopping?
I buy into it. We actually talked to Ben Griffin. Patrick talked to him, and I was there to help facilitate it. And we asked him questions about the Ryder Cup as if it was a foregone conclusion that he was going to be on the Ryder Cup team. And he didn't not respond to those questions as if he also thought that it was a foregone conclusion that he was going to be on the Ryder Cup team. I mean, he was talking about playing with Bryson, getting out there and hitting bombs with Bryson. And so I think he thought the same. So I absolutely agree. There are two things that I'll throw in here at the end is there are like 5 guys that if they win in the next 3 weeks, they're going to be on the team. I think. Wyndham Clark is all of a sudden in form. Like he went from left field to now. I feel like if he wins, he's back into the conversation. You could throw Sam Burns in there. You could throw someone said in the chat Spieth because like if Spieth finished 7th this week, he's on the team. If Spieth finishes 7th next week, you're on the team because you don't want to be the captain who loses on US soil for the first time in forever. And then on top of that, you have to say, I didn't bring Patrick Cantlay. Instead, I brought Ben Griffin, and Spieth finished top 10 like 3 weeks before the event. And I didn't bring him either. Like as much as we don't want to believe it, that is also part of it. So it'll be interesting for sure, because there are guys that can, I mean, Brian Harmon, I think Brian Harmon on paper is a pretty good fit for TPC Southwind. And that's now a guy with experience under his belt on the Ryder Cup team. But there are a lot of names still in play. I think it's going to be exciting.
Yeah, it is going to be exciting. I mean, I know there's going to be some DFS questions in the chat, and everybody who's kind of joining us late, feel free to put your questions in the chat. If you're joining us on Twitter, thank you for joining us. Come over to YouTube if you want, but you can ask questions over on Twitter as well. I'll always smash the like button, all those things. But I will say this. When I did the DFS show with Mike McClure on Monday, that range of 8,000, 8,100, 8,200, which was Cam Young, not in this order, Cam Young, Ben Griffin, and Chris Gotterup. Mm-hmm. I love that range. And I think a lot of people will like some of that, those 3 guys. We'll look at the ownership later in the show, but like those are 3 guys that have a ton to prove, that have a ton of upside, that I'm very much willing to play together in a DFS lineup. And then I see guys like Aaron Rye, Josh, who has certainly something to play for on the other side of it. Mm-hmm. So and he certainly seems like a good course fit with the history and the recent form. Like there's a lot of, if you want to do the narrative shopping thing, you absolutely can. And you happen to be doing it with guys who are in good form. So it's just an interesting thread that's kind of being weaved through this FedEx St. Jude. All right, Josh, I'll tell you what. Questions are piling up in the chat. We got to get to them. If you don't mind, Josh, can you take us to a quick break from our partners?
Here we go. The 2025 CBS Sports NFL schedule is here. 18 glorious Sundays.
He's got his receiver touchdown.
Filled with rematches.
Oh, the play of the year.
And rivalries.
Touchdown, Bengals.
Plus, plenty of superstar showdowns. And an epic matchup between the Chiefs and Cowboys on Thanksgiving. Clear your Sundays beginning September 7th for the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus.
All right, we are back on the Early Wedge. We are now answering your questions. Brandon is first up. He says, what are your thoughts on this 2-ball? Nick Taylor, so this would be a round 1 2-ball, I presume, Brandon. Nick Taylor over Colin Morikawa at plus 115. I'll tell you, this is high as plus 120 in some spots as well. Obviously, Colin a big favorite. That's going to be in the minus 150 range. So, Josh, personally, I still like Colin here, but I certainly wouldn't pay the minus 150 to take Colin over Taylor. I think Colin's going to bounce back to some degree. I think the putter is going to be a little bit better than it has been. Certainly the ball striking a little bit better. Taylor's been good. I'm just not willing to touch this one. Do you have any thoughts on Colin at the FedEx in general, Josh?
History suggests that he's a walking top 25 here. I think the course would suggest the same. Put the ball in the fairway, small greens, and even if he doesn't putt well, which the putting is up and down as it always is with Colin, he still is probably going to find a way to finish top 25, whether it's a 70-person field or not. So I like the plus number. I certainly wouldn't go anywhere near it if it was, Nick Taylor even money. So I think it's fine with it. I'm not going to be mad at anybody fading Colin just on vibes right now.
Yeah.
Another caddy this week, by the way, Tony Finau's previous caddy. That's 5 for those who are counting. There are guys who have made less cuts this year on the PGA Tour than Colin has PGA Tour caddies this year. So I don't mind fading Colin. If you like Nick Taylor, there are some other places to get in on Nick Taylor. He's like even money to finish top 30 and 2-1 to finish top 20, which I think is interesting. So if it's a Nick Taylor thing, rather than a fading Colin thing, then I think there are some places where you can get in on Nick Taylor and be safe from Colin just having a really good putting week and finishing T7.
So that's a really sharp thing there, because a lot of times, Mike McClure will be on here and somebody will ask him about a matchup and he says, his answer will be like, yeah, I kind of like it. I don't mind you playing it, but why don't you take the strokes under instead? If you think he's going to beat so-and-so person, his stroke line is, 69.5, take the under there. You can kind of just not worry about how well or not well the opponent plays. I do think if I had to bet it, I would be on the plus 120. I agree with you, Josh. And Taylor's been good. He did miss the cut at the Open Championship, but he didn't miss it by much. And prior to that, he's kind of been a machine with the ball striking. So I think Nick Taylor's a pretty sneaky play. I'm glad you brought it up, right? And Zach Kasenki says, what's up, Sia? I should not bet the farm, so he's saying, I'm going to bet responsibly, but Hovland pays plus 100, even money, to be a top 20, then combine with Matt Fitzpatrick minus 110. It just makes a ton of sense. So I guess you're asking about both of them individually. I do like both of these. I'm a little worried, Josh. I don't know why. I'm worried about Matt Fitzpatrick. Maybe it's because of his popularity in general that I'm just like, I don't know. I mean, he's had 5 great tournaments in a row. He's clearly back, in my opinion. I would lean towards the Hovland one. These are both pretty great, though. Your thoughts, Josh?
Yeah, I'm in on both of them. The Open is interesting from how I feel about it on someone's profile perspective. I mean, Victor's Open Championship was like the worst tournament of the last 2 years for him. And it hasn't exactly been smooth sailing the last 2 years for Victor either, since he was, the best player in the world at the end of 2023. But other than that, he's, T11 at the Scottish, 3rd at the US Open. He WD'd from the Traveler. So it's a weird profile, but I think Hovland ultimately is playing well. And I think he's 2nd in this field over the last 36 rounds in approach play. I think plus 100 for a top 20 is fine. And then I'm down to ride Fitzpatrick until he stops playing well. I think Matt Fitzpatrick could win the FedEx Cup. So if that's how I feel, then minus 110 to finish top 20. I'm in his history here is good as well. So I'm in on both.
I had him outright at the Scottish. I had him outright at the Open Championship. Of course, that was in the without Scotty market. I thought I was going to get there maybe on both. I'm trying to remember the Scottish. I certainly thought I was going to get there at the Open. He played really well. It's kind of silly that I'm off him now, but there's only so many people in a 69-person field I can fit on my card. Hovland was one of those guys. Hovland is a little shaky in some areas, but he led the field here at the FedEx ball striking last year. He was 4th tee to green. So if you're like, oh yeah, he was a good ball striker, but he must have been terrible around the green. No, not really. He lost a little bit around the green, but he was still so good in general that he was 4th tee to green last year. And I believe in 2023, he gained everywhere outside of being a small loser off the tee. We see our tournament outrights here from everybody, but I've got Tommy. Again, these are all in sort of without marketish things. If you watch the early Wedge, you kind of saw how I played it. I'm trying to scoop 2 winners here, but Tommy Fleetwood without Scotty, and then Hovland and Burns without that Fleetwood, Scotty, Justin Thomas, and Xander market. So yeah, I'm big on Hovland, but yeah, I can't argue with what Zach put. Let me ask you this, Josh, before we get to Jack George's question, because I'm about to, I put out a crazy parlay from the early Wedge in our long shot section yesterday, and I'm going to tweet that out. And it's kind of like a shell because I might switch some things around and just do another parlay. I do these for like $2, $3, $4, $5. With that said, I want to ask you the following question, because the parlay I put out is relatively safe. Well, I shouldn't say safe. I played it safe. I could have made this 100 to 1. Instead, it's 50 to 1. It's certainly not safe. I'm not pretending this is definitely going to hit. But I want to ask you the following. More likely to finish in the top 10, because I might tweak this thing. Tommy Fleetwood, Russell Henley, Matt Fitzpatrick, Victor Hovland. Fleetwood, Henley, Hovland, Fitz.
I think I still go Fitz. I think Henley would be second for me. I like all of them, to be honest with you. And that's probably why you're asking me, because all four of them are in good form. Fitzpatrick's gained across the bag in 3 straight tournaments. Yeah. Like all 4 categories. And that is really uncommon. Like Scotty Scheffler doesn't even do it in like 3. Like he'll lose with, he'll slightly lose with the putter here, or have a bad, relatively speaking, driving week and lose here. Like Scotty does it, but that's really impressive golf. So I'd probably go Fitz first, but then after that, I think I'd go Henley. I really, really like Henley this week as well. But I have a hard time arguing with any of them, but Henley and Fitz would be the top 2 probably.
So if you're listening to the podcast, the parlay I put out at 54 to 1 was Chris Kirk top 40, Aaron Ride top 30, Russell Henley, Fitzpatrick, and Hovland top 20, and then 1 top 10, which would be Tommy Fleetwood. And what I mentioned yesterday is that this is kind of like a shell. You can kind of I like all of these guys in the finishing position market, but if you're tentative about Fleetwood top 10, okay, bump him to top 20 and then, trust in Josh with the Russell Henley play and flip, or do 2 parlays where you've got, Fleet top 10 in one and Russell top 10 in the other and what have you. I will say that if you put Fleetwood in the top 20 and you go real conservative with the top 20s, it'll pay 32 to 1 instead of 54 to 1. And then you don't have to worry about a top 10 anywhere. The other thing is this is not including ties. So if it is a tie, it's going to be reduced in a pretty significant way. And I will mention that if you flip Hovland or Henley to the top 10 with Fleetwood, it'll be 100 to 1. So again, this is a shell. Have fun with it. Put $2 on 4 different versions of this parlay. I like doing that. I think it's super fun. And I think this actually has a shot. All right, we go to Jack George. Are you guys attacking round score unders tomorrow? No win and almost every player's score 68.5. Thinking under for Wyndham, Fitz, Burns, Griffin, Henley. So I'm not, Josh. I know this is a Mike McClure thing more than anything. I like to isolate matchups. I will say, though, that of that list, Wyndham scares me a little bit. I think Wyndham's upside is tremendous. I kind of wish I had him as a first-round leader, but again, I can't put like 5 or 6 first-round leaders on a 69-person field. I like him as a first-round leader potentially. I like his history here, but I also think it could go sideways for him a little bit.
Yes.
I think Fitz, and I would say the same about Burns to a lesser extent. I think Fitz and Henley would be the guys I would probably play that market for. Maybe that's an obvious statement, but that's where I'd go with it, Josh.
That's where I went as well. Both Burns and Wyndham feel like if you ask me to put money on who's going to shoot 64 on Thursday, then I'm probably going Wyndham and Burns. But for playing the under of 68.5, Fitz and Henley is where I went first with less volatility on a Thursday.
Yeah. I have actually my first round leaders, by the way, are my outrights. It's the same 3. Plus I added Chris Kirk at 60 to 1, just so everybody knows. Joe Suppose says, is Scotty at plus 280 a steal with no Rory in the field this week? It's never a steal. Like I actually do think Scotty's going to win, but in terms of his actual win equity, 280 is not really a fair price. Mike McClure talks about that all the time. If you want to take it, like that's great. Plus 280 is a nice number in general. Just, getting a 280 return on anything is great, but like I'm not playing Scotty there. I would prefer to lay my money in a non-Scotty market, in a without Scotty market, than I would just putting my money on Scotty Scheffler. That's just me. Let's see. Jacob says, suppose you have a choice between Bettia, so Akshay Bettia, Kevin Yu, or Ricky Fowler as the last guy in a DFS lineup. Who gets your click? Ooh, that is... So you would not be one of them for me, even though he's a ball striker. I get it. It would be Ricky or Akshay. Josh, what's your take here?
I think it's Ricky. I think
I think
is
it's
playing
Ricky too, and I can't believe I'm saying that.
I think he's playing sneaky. The issue with Ricky Fowler is a couple things. One, he was awesome when he was young. So we compare Ricky, the actual golfer in 2025, to what we thought Ricky was when he finished top 5 in all 4 majors in 2014 and then won the 15 players. That was peak Ricky, top 5 player in the world. It's a little JT and Spiethish, just that he didn't have the apex mountain that those two guys had.
Yeah.
So he's almost like a casualty of his own success when he was really young. And as a result, nothing is ever good enough when it comes to Ricky, but Ricky's just playing solid golf. He's making lots of cuts. He's finishing like top 30, top 35 a lot this summer. And he is 5th in this field over the last 36 rounds in driving accuracy. That seems pretty good to me for a last guy in a DFS lineup.
What's interesting is all those guys are between 6,600 and 7K, and I'm just looking at the other players, and they're down there for a reason. There's nobody that I'm really in love with. I mean, Grillo's going to be a little chalky, but not that chalky. I think he's an interesting one. I think you could take a chance on Ryan Fox, but that's really risky. Siwoo Kim, I think, is interesting. Lucas Glover is there. He's going to get some ownership, so maybe you want to pivot off of that. Do you have any thoughts on Taylor Pendrith, Josh? He's at 7,100. Any thoughts whatsoever? I feel like the upside is there. He's getting all 4 rounds.
The upside's certainly there. I don't have very many thoughts on Taylor Pendrith. I don't know. I don't really know what to do with him. Anytime he has expectations, I feel like he doesn't totally own up to them. He just kind of will pop up and play awesome golf and then disappear for a little while. And I have a hard time predicting what he's going to do from a finishing position standpoint.
Yeah, he was okay here last year, but his ball striking hasn't really been very good. Even when he's making cuts and finishing well, his approach play in particular has been a little off since the Memorial. I just think that's interesting. But anyway, just kind of a random play that nobody's really going to be paying. Go ahead.
On that Grillo note, if the goal is to find somebody like in that 6K range, I tabled out the top 10 in driving accuracy, approach play, tee to green, and greens and regulation over the last 36 rounds. And there were a few names that showed up like multiple times. Some of them you would expect, but Grillo is top 10 in this field in that time frame in driving accuracy, greens and regulation, and strokes gained approach. So if you're looking for a guy to shore up the bottom of the lineup, I think Grillo once again is a good play. And I actually think people being so high on him last week and then him not playing awesome is a good thing for people who might go back to him.
Yeah, I'm looking at some of my tee to green stuff as well to see if Grillo certainly is on there. I'm just seeing if there's anybody else that's kind of a lesser name. Siwoo kind of pops here and there. Yeah, but that's I mean, Taylor's on this list, but he's far down a little bit, but he's still in the right category of things. All right, let's keep going. Dodgers fan saying what's up. Hopefully y'all have hit the like button. We always appreciate that. I'm going to go. Hopefully I didn't miss anybody. Tom O, kind sirs, is 60% Scotty too much? So I assume that means, Tom, you're playing 60% Scotty as opposed to you're seeing that type of ownership, because I think his ownership's going to be, I'm guessing, Josh, it's going to be in that like 40% range, maybe a tick higher. But if you're over the field on Scotty, no, I don't think that's too much at all. Like, I don't want to play him in the outright market. I'm avoiding him in the without market. But I think you probably, if you're going to play Scotty, you probably want to be overweight on him. In fact, Josh, I'd say if you're going to be in on Scotty, 70% isn't too much. 80% isn't too much. All in isn't necessarily too much. It's not what I'm doing, but he's the best in the field. And if he's going to be played by 40-ish% of the field, you probably want to be one up on the field and have more lineups than the field does. So I don't think 60% is too much. Your thoughts on Scotty, Josh?
80, 90, 99.7.
Yeah.
The only thing I would say is if you've got a ton of conviction on a different 10K guy winning the golf tournament, then maybe we have a conversation about it. But I mean, Scotty's probably going to win the golf tournament and hasn't finished outside of the top 8 since the Players. That was in March for people who are counting. Top 8. So, I mean, in this field, the floor is, in a 70-man field, 69, the floor is fifth, fourth. And I don't know. I think if you really think one of those other guys is going to win the golf tournament, then maybe, but I would venture to guess that you don't think that.
Yeah.
So I think we're so far in the don't overthink it with Scotty space, especially if Mike McClure comes on this channel on Monday and says he's not too expensive. Just
Right.
Just do it.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. It's really easy to build lineups with Scotty. I mean, especially when you understand that this is a no-cut event. And if you can get a couple of 60, I mean, it's not, I don't want to say it's easy, like, oh yeah, you can get Scotty and so many other great guys. But if you're willing to play Scotty and you're willing to assume that you take, let's say, a couple of 6K guys that are going to pop and you have this kind of stars and scrubs approach, you can, you're getting 4 rounds. So any of those guys can go off, and we can talk about some of those 6K guys if you want. That begged another question. Oh, I just wanted to comment, because I mentioned this on the DFS show on Monday, that if you're building one lineup, I would say probably build it with Scotty, but I'm going to build a handful of lineups, and I will tell you, I will probably be sort of at the field on Scotty. I'm going to have probably half the lineups, and I'm not building 150. I'm talking about like 10 or 12 lineups. Half the lineups are going to have Scotty. The other half are probably going to start in the 9K range, the upper 9K range, and I'm going to flood that market and then take like 3 9K guys and 3 other guys to fill out my lineup. Bo Connor says, Sia, what are your thoughts on Matsuyama over JT for the tournament at -125? Henley over JT for round 1 at -110. I like Henley over JT round 1. In fact, I have Henley over JT for the tournament that I put out on the early wedge. I don't know that I have a strong take, Josh, on Matsuyama over JT. Who do you like of those two better?
We're at the 27-minute mark, and this is where I admit that I'm all in on JT this week.
Interesting. Tell me why.
JT is a elite PGA Tour course player. Elite. And he's even more elite at the places that he doesn't have to hit driver everywhere.
Yeah.
TPC Southwind, a couple numbers for you. 7,200 this week on the scorecard-ish at TPC Southwind. It's the 25th longest course on tour this year. Some of the courses that are in that realm and then slightly shorter. I mean, nothing on the PGA Tour at this point except the Travelers is under 7,000 yards at this point. TPC Scottsdale, Harbortown, PGA West, the Amex, which is PGA West and La Quinta, and several courses involved there. Philly Cricket Club and TPC River Highlands. JT is T6, win 2nd, T2, and 9th this year on courses that he doesn't have to drive around. It's one of those resumes this year that is like top 2, not 2 if you take majors out of it. And we put a little bit of emphasis on the playoffs, but I think approaching it like a signature event is reasonable, especially this one with the 70-person field. It's similar to the signature events, and he's been awesome in the signature events, especially at the places that fit his criteria of take the driver out of my hand and I'm better than just about everybody in the other statistics, including the putter this year, where he's having one of the best seasons of his career. That's interesting.
I'm almost mad at myself for not looking at JT, although I don't think I was going to fit him on my outright card. But I've heard, it's interesting, Josh. I've been on the you don't have to pull out driver here as well, but I've actually gotten some pushback from some other people in the industry saying, no, it's a driver course. Like, this is not a driver course. Like, that doesn't mean you're not using driver, but you're dialing it down on a lot of these holes, correct?
I think so. It's definitely not Harbortown. Like it's even if it's in the same, I know it just added it sort of in the same group with Harbortown there. I think more for a guy like JT, you aren't like way behind the 8 ball if you're not hitting driver. And I think that's the difference. Because of course, like if you can hit driver all over the place straight, like obviously you're in an advantage. I just don't think the disadvantage is quite as big as it would be other places if you're hitting 3-iron or 3-wood off the tee versus a driver.
Yeah, agree. You certainly want to be in the fairway, I think, especially with these greens. All right, let's see more questions Good afternoon, gentlemen, from Big Boy. $200 DK DFS single entry, 6,700 left for the last spot. Who would you all take? Okay, so he says it's between Bridgman or Stevens. I like both of them. I talked a lot about Bridgman on the Monday show at 6,300. Josh, do you have it up on Rick Run Good? Like, do you like anybody? Like, I guess we talked about Grillo, although he's probably going to get a little bit of ownership. What he is 6,600. He'd probably be my last man in. If I was willing to take a few more chances, I think it would be Bridgman. I might consider going back to Bud Cauley, but in a 200 single entry, I'm not sure I'd have the guts to do that, or Ryan Fox, but I think they're in the conversation. Novak kind of in the conversation, but again, very risky. I think Grillo is the safest of the plays. What do you think?
I would probably go Grillo. I mean, he's going to have a little bit of ownership, but not a ton. Like, I mean, we're talking right now. Rick on rickrungood.com has him projected to have the same ownership as Nico Echeverria, and I'm not totally sure that we're shouting from the rooftops about him this week. So I like Bridgman more than Stevens, I think. But I think some of those names we just threw out there I'd go to first. But between those two, if you've got some conviction about those, I think I'd probably go Bridgman slightly over Stevens.
All right, I'm going to go back up a little bit. But, I was going to go to Al's question on Chris Goddard, but I'll tell you what, Josh, if you don't mind, can we take one more break here and hear one last message from our partners?
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you. When you need your sports in a snap, find it on CBS Sports HQ, streaming free anywhere you are.
All right, we're back on the early wedge. I'm with Josh Mullenix. I skipped a couple of questions. I may miss some of these questions, everybody, so I apologize. David talks his thoughts on Fox, Cauley, Girard, and Bridgman in DFS lineups. So, I think, Josh, we just discussed those to a degree. I think you're definitely taking a chance on all those guys, but I actually think all of them have upside. I like Bridgman's putter. I like how he kind of kept it in the fairway last week. I think Fox is one of those guys that we're just never going to know when he's going to play well. I've seen him be relatively accurate this year with his driver. So, if you can kind of rein that in, I think Fox is the pedigree that if he's playing well, like belongs in the mid 7K range as opposed to where he is. Cauley, I don't know if he's just lost it, but I tend to think he hasn't. And he wasn't terrible last week. I think the ball striking was just slightly below average. Ryan Girard, if the putter can get going, like these are a lot of ifs, David. And I think when you are talking about a no-cut event, and you're talking about guys that we've seen either win or contend this year, I think you should be willing to go to some of these players. Josh, any opinion on any of these four?
Back to my table, Cauley 8th in driving accuracy, so you can believe that he'll at least be in the fairway. I'm sure everyone has heard people talk about the greens. It's probably just something to discuss more than anything else. I think, they were renovated, so they will likely be bouncier. But these guys will have 3 days out of the fairway to get used to them. It'll be, I think, where it will come into play is when guys are hitting out of the rough. It's Memphis in August. The grass is going to be healthy. It's going to be, thick in some specific places. So, Cauley, just for that reason, Girard, tee to green is pretty high up there in this field over the last 36. Fox, I think I'm good on, kind of in that vein. He's 59th out of 69 players in this field in driving accuracy. Don't love that. And I think you're right. I think he just might be one of those guys that if he plays well one week, maybe he'll play well the next week. He kind of will play well in bursts. But other than that, I'm not totally sure there's a predictable measurement that I will confidently go to figure out if Ryan Fox is about to hit again.
There isn't, it's kind of YOLO with him. So again, with getting 4 rounds, you could talk yourself into it. Sure. If I had to rank these though, and I'm including pricing as well, because Bridgman's 6,300, he's lower than these other guys. I would probably go Bridgman, Girard, Cauley, Fox. But if I'm playing 20 lineups, I'm willing to put those guys in my rotation to some degree. One of them isn't in every of the 20 lineups, but I think I'd be willing to kind of sprinkle those guys in. Michael G says, what about Straka this week? I think Straka's fine. I'm not so sure about how he's playing right now. I'm not going to play him in DFS. He's not on my betting card. I'm not taking him in any round matchups. So he's a fade for me, but I don't mind him. He's going to be relatively popular. Josh, Straka, is he a yay or nay for you this week?
He's a do what you want with him for me this week. He's playing fine. He's popped a couple times. He's played really well in signature events this summer, but I think he's playing fine. And he does some of the things that I'd like to see at Southwind, but I don't have a ton of conviction either way, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Zach Kasenki says JJ Spawn plus 140, top 20, run to the betting window ? I kind of like JJ Spawn. I personally wouldn't be betting that, but I don't hate it. Josh, your thoughts?
Yeah, it's fine. I don't hate it either. I actually, speaking of Spawn, Strange Brew, I want to give a shout out to Strange Brew because he came in here at 11:20 this morning to ask us about his one and done. So hopefully he's still in here and didn't get discouraged if we didn't hit it off the top. But he has Spawn, and I'm going to throw it up here. He has Spawn in a one and done that he's front running. Well done, by the way. Well, Patrick and I might need to hire you to consult on our one and done next year. But 4 guys for the majors in the first 2 playoffs, and he has Spawn here. Spawn, it made me think of this. I like Spawn next week at a really big ballpark at Caves Valley, where you just need ball strikers, I think. I think he's fine this week. He's obviously playing great golf this year. Validated the win at the U.S. Open, I think, with another strong Open Championship performance. But I think he's fine. There's also a much longer list of names that Strange Brew follows up with.
I didn't even see those questions in the chat, by the way. Like I saw Brandon as the first question. I might have missed some of the early ones.
I saw what you saw as well. So to have missed it that I saw Brandon first. But anyways.
So what is he asking though here? Spawn. He's asking for help with what? Like, what are we picking for him?
So I believe we're picking 4 guys for this week and 4 guys, but we need 4 guys next week. And we also need 4 guys that will actually be in the field next week.
Gotcha.
I saw this message a while ago. So I kind of spent a little bit of time trying to figure it out. And where I landed, Strange Brew, was that I have some conviction about Fowler this week and Sung J M this week. Sung J just hits it really straight off the tee. I don't love him at a place. I mean, Caves Valley is going to be like 7,600 yards next week. There are like 3 courses on tour on the scorecard that are longer in 2025. So I don't love him there. Obviously, we talked about Fowler a little bit. And then next week, I go Goddard up and Spawn as the place to start. You'll have both of them in that field. Obviously Goddard up just mashes it, and Spawn just won at Oakmont, so clearly big ballparks aren't.
Long iron plays solid for Spawn as well. Yeah.
Right. So I think there are a lot of guys there that are kind of low 6K range this week, which is tough. But if you start there, I feel like you could be a bit interchangeable and end up okay.
All right. Good question, Strange Brew. Sorry, I missed that one. Let's go to let's see. Let's go to Al. Grillo or Nick Taylor for last pick for DFS. He says draft, but we've talked about both. Josh, if feet to the fire here, Grillo or Nick Taylor?
Grillo.
Okay. It's so close to me. I would go with Grillo too. I've been on him though for a few weeks now. It'd be kind of silly for me to pivot. All right, let's see. We go to, forgive me if I'm skipping some of these. I thought there was a question from Chris Schelt. I'll probably have to scroll back up. Japan says he got my round 1 matchup at -114. What was that? It was Chris Kirk. I think it was -125 over Tony Finau. So you got -114, Japan. That's great. Josh, any thoughts on Tony Finau? I mean, he feels a little broken. The putter's been okay, but the ball striking is just not there.
Yeah, that's a problem for Big Tone. Like we need the ball striking to be the thing. So until we figure that out, I'm I will root for Big Tone from the sidelines, but try to avoid him otherwise.
Yeah, he's definitely. I'm going to look to fade him across the board this week. This was a comment from Chris Shelton, and this goes to the Grillo Taylor question. Jason Sobel, our very own early wedge, Jason Sobel, had Nick Taylor on his live from the course show. This would have been this morning, and Nick said that this is a perfect course for him, but for some reason he doesn't play well. But Chris is saying he sounded confident about his game. I think there's some value in that comment, Chris. I appreciate you sharing that with us. Let's see. We go to, I'm going to scroll back down here. Okay, Chris Schelt also says, if you play Fitz, Hovland, and Tommy top 20 and Scotty winning, it's 20-1. I play a few options and usually longer odds as well as live, and it's paid off on several Scotty wins. Yeah, that's interesting. Put Scotty in the winner's circle and then just start doing some finishing positions. I'm not doing that. Because I kind of want to root against Scotty winning, I guess, even though I have the without market. I just think it would be more interesting if there's competition with Scotty. But any thoughts on this?
Sure. I like all three of those names.
Yeah.
That's probably not something I'm doing, but I get it. It's also, it also is not on the flip side of wanting to, of rooting against Scotty. It's also less fun if you've gotten brave with your outright and you've got the guy who's in third, but he's, one back of second and 6 back of Scotty. Like, that's not especially fun either. So you can kind of double dip and get a bigger payout.
Which reminds me, for my Tommy Fleetwood 18-1 in the without Scotty Scheffler market, I'm actually hoping we see a Cam Young situation where Scotty is so far ahead, but Fleetwood is in second place or whatever, and Fleetwood knows he's not going to win, so he doesn't buckle. Like, he's 6 or 7 shots back, and he's like, I'm probably not going to catch Scotty. He's just going to play Fleetwood's game like he'd play in the first 3 rounds, no pressure, and he just settles in second place. That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, that's about where Tommy's PGA Tour career is. I hope he's getting just smoked by Scotty so he can finish second.
That's right. I mean, I do like him this week, though. B. Smith says, look forward to you guys every day of the week. Thank you. Yeah, we're on 4 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Sunday. And we'll be on CBS Sports Network at 1 o'clock on Friday as well. FYI, again, that's CBS Sports Network. What do we think of Nico again this week? So Nico was great last week until Sunday. He's, good Bermuda guy, can certainly fill it up with birdies. I'm not on him. I think I don't know. I think he's fine. I know in our early wedge show, top South American market, Jason Sobel had Emiliano Grillo at plus 150 over Nico, and I guess it would have been Johnny Vegas. Your thoughts on Nico this week, Josh?
I think he's a fine option in the upper 6K range if you need to go there, but I don't have a ton of thoughts beyond that. He doesn't play especially well in deep fields, and I know this is not a major with 130 players in it, but it is a signature event-ish type field, and he hasn't played in very many of those. And just when you go to events that've got deep talent, he hasn't been awesome. So I think he's fine and playing well enough that I'm not going to bark at you for going to him.
Yeah, Brandon says, do you guys like Chris Kirk's first round under of 69? Don't have a price, just in general. What are your thoughts? I mean, I have Chris Kirk as a dark horse first round leader at 60-1. He was first round leader last year. I've kind of noticed he's tended to start off tournaments well, and I don't know if he gasses out or what happens. Like what happened, for example, last Sunday. He just wasn't and Saturday too. He just wasn't very good with the ball striking. But yeah, I like this. I think he'll have a good first round.
Yeah, I like Chris Kirk. He's on that win distance doesn't completely take you out of the equation all-star team.
Yeah.
So he's interesting in weeks like this, no matter what. I definitely like playing rounds with him more than anything else, because at least you can get out if he's clearly not playing well. Like, he's either been awesome or missed the cut the last 5 weeks. So I like this better than like full tournament, I think. So
yeah,
but I think I would be surprised if he starts slow, I think.
Yeah, me too. Big Boy says also thoughts on Hovland, top continental European at plus 260 over guys like Ludwig, Straka, and Dietrich. I'm not in love with it. I'm not betting it, but I don't mind it. I certainly like Hovland here. I'm probably I'd be more comfortable playing Hovland in like a top 20 market, or even top 10 at a really nice number. But top 20, we talked about it earlier. You can get that at around even money, I believe. I know that's a completely different number, but I just feel like it's possible like a Straka or Ludwig could have this like fantastic tournament and you lose because of that, but Hovland finishes like 11th or 9th or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, Ludwig is a little Patrick Cantlay-ish in terms of it feels like the sky is falling for Ludwig, but really he's just not been great at the majors and everywhere else. He's been pretty rock solid, and he just finished T23 at the Open Championship, T8 at the Scottish. So, that would be my concern, but also Ludwig could put like 3 in the water off the tee this week and finish like T47, and I also wouldn't be stunned by that.
And his around the green play can be really sketchy. Like again, and that, by the way, makes him a pretty good DFS play, especially if, and I'm going to just check up on ownership here. These aren't static numbers. These are going to change on Rick Run, go to wherever you get your ownership. But see, Ludwig still, at least according to RRG, is still getting 17%, which I know this is a shorter field. And so that 17% is going to look different in a shorter field, but it's not like it's extremely low. Justin Thomas isn't, I'd rather play Justin Thomas and just find the money for him than play Ludwig at 600 cheaper. All right, B. Smith says, see you, my man. Look forward to you daily. I see the grind. Keep it up. Thank you very much, by the way. He says, such an inspiration. I really appreciate those words. Looking forward to first round leader. I know you took Fleet, Jock, Burns, and Kirk. Give me one more for my card. Well, there were a couple more that I was like very much considering. And I will go with Wyndham Clark, who has a morning tee time. Like most of my guys are actually in the afternoon. I don't think it's going to matter. The wind and the weather should be relatively the same throughout between the tee times. But Wyndham Clark goes off early, and I could see him just putting up a low number. If I was going to give you another one, Cam Young, who I think can absolutely win this tournament, even though his history here isn't very good. And another one would be Aaron Rai. Those would be 3 guys that I think can win this tournament and can also be a first-round leader here. So I know you only asked for 1, but there's 3. Okay, I've really been wanting to ask for confirmation here. Is it CMAC with a K or CMAC with a C? Chris Kish, it is CMAC with a K. Round 1, 2-ball, Cam Davis or Eric Van Rooyen. Brandon digging deep. Oh my, I would go with Cam Davis here, Josh. I know EVR had to withdraw with a back injury. I don't know how serious or if that's really anything. I don't like either of these two, but if I had to play this, I'd go with Cam Davis. Any thoughts on Cam Davis? Probably not.
Not especially. I'm going to have to apologize for my lack of professionalism here, because this is why I don't produce and host at the same time, because my mouse just died and so I'm like digging around the back of my computer trying to plug my mouse in. So I apologize. I haven't been paying attention for the last like 60 seconds. So,
hey, you're good. We're sitting here answering questions. You can go
100%.
off camera if you want, and I can continue to answer questions or stay on. It doesn't matter. We're barely noticing what you're doing.
It is. I had that thought and then realized that I can't click my own box to take myself off the screen because my mouse is dead. So I'm going to disappear for a second and I'll be back. Okay.
All right.
Awesome.
Anthony Bailey says, can we get a first round matchup, please? So I gave one out today. If you missed the early edge, it's every Monday through Friday at 10 in the morning on this YouTube channel. Please subscribe to the podcast too. Can we get a first round? So I gave out Chris Kirk -125 over Tony Finau. The better number is at DK, although Japan found it at -114 somewhere. I can tell you at BetMGM and FanDuel, it was like -140, -145. Don't pay that price. Pay -125 or -114. Can I ask you something, Anthony? I just gave you a matchup, but if there's another matchup that you're looking at that you're considering, just put it in the chat and we'll answer, because it's hard for me to scroll through all the matchups right now. But that's the matchup I gave out this morning on the early edge. All right, let's see. I'm on Henley. Tom Leach says, I'm on Henley, Fitzpatrick, Straka, Clark, and Xander this week, outright plus top 10s. That's fine. I think all those guys have plenty of potential. Most of them have potential to win this tournament. That's the thing, especially when you're talking DFS. I think there's so many guys that have tremendous upside to like kind of be there with Scotty. So you don't have to play all the popular guys in DFS because there's so many guys that sort of fit the description of maybe doing really well at this course. Let's see. Tom Leach says, anyone else sick of hearing about the Ryder Cup team and who's playing? I'm all burned out from this point on every podcast I've watched. I can see that because I will say this, like, my introduction to golf was not on the course. It was with betting. And so when I attack every week, I'm looking for DFS prices. I'm looking for odds on MGM and DraftKings and all those places. So because the Ryder Cup, and I'm talking historically, because the Ryder Cup wasn't a great betting event for me, or DFS event for that matter, like I never really paid a ton of attention to it. And so there might be people in that vein, but I think most people that are watching are very much into the golf itself. So Tom, you're probably in the minority is what I'm trying to tell you, but I understand to some degree where you are coming from. Let's see, more questions. Josh, are you back? We're good to go?
I'm back. And I apologize, Tom. I apologize.
That literally nothing to apologize for.
It could have easily been like 37 minutes instead of 7. So as far as I'm concerned, we're doing everyone a favor.
Chris Schelt, this is a cool comment. See, I've been betting with you since the outlaw golf during COVID. You're becoming a polished pro. Awesome to watch you and Rick grow as professionals. So I got to give a shout out to the Outlaw Tour and talk about betting golf and doing DFS golf when you couldn't bet or play DFS, Josh, in any other avenue. The Outlaw Tour. I mean, I cannot tell you how excited I was sitting in South Florida in my condo, knowing that I was going to, and by the way, I wasn't even good. My bets might have been okay. My DFS was complete trash because I was just taking guys that I didn't know a.k.a. Limbasuit. I didn't know any of these guys, right? But Josh, I don't know if you were, you would have been producing shows then. Like, that was a fun time.
Yeah.
Outside of the COVID part, I just mean the Outlaw Tour, like the fact that it was available to us.
I think I was in Indianapolis doing sports radio at the time.
Wow.
Who's the twins that you're a fan of because of the Outlaw Tour?
The Paul bros.
Right. Jeremy and Yannick. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. It was, I can't imagine, sports was so weird in that time for everybody, but especially for, at least those who were just covering sports could talk about the developments of, the bubble and that kind of thing. And what is the NFL going to do? But if games aren't being played, there aren't wagers to be made. So shout out to the Outlaw Tour.
It was really cool. And by the way, it gave a lot of people insight as to like how many of these other tours. We hear about the Corn Ferry Tour, but like nobody knows about these other mini tours. And the fact that like people kind of learned about that a little bit, but also that the spotlight was on these golfers for the first time ever, that like the spotlight has really since never been on outside of those who actually kind of graduated from that and made it to the PGA Tour. I think it's probably really cool for them as well. All right, let's see. Thoughts on Brian Harman in the lower 7K as a pivot off Lowry and Glover. First of all, is Lowry getting ownership? I mean, would that even be a pivot? I don't mind Harman at all. And I took a look at him. I don't know if I'm going to play him, but Josh, you talked about it. You don't need to be necessarily a heavy hitter here. Harman seems fine.
Yeah, Harman's fine. I think any ownership that Lowry is getting, Glover, obviously, I think will get some ownership. Lowry pops everywhere except the putter. The putter has been so bad this summer for Shane. He is all over my top 10 table with accuracy, greens and regulation, approach, and tee to green. He's all over it. He's on there 3 different times, but he just can't putt. He can't. He's not going to make enough putts. So I think Harman's fine.
Harman, the last few years, I mean, he has pretty good history here. T3 in 2022, T31, T50 the last 2 years. Harman's one of those guys that just shows up at bigger events. And obviously I consider this a bigger event. So I think that's a really smart pivot. Let's see. Big Boy says Koepka and Scotty to win this weekend, 183-1. Koepka, we know from yesterday's show, is 60-1 to win wherever they're playing.
Chicago, I think, right? Is it Chicago?
Yes. He has been so bad with the ball. I looked at the Live Tour stats. I mean, it's just... he is Brooks Koepka. Like, I kind of get it, but I'd rather parlay Scotty with somebody like slightly more realistic. 60-1. He's on Jason Sobel's card. He also has Bryson, of course. And then we have EC with his crazy parlays. He likes John Rahm, which certainly makes sense. All right, let's see. James Cole says, first time here for a live chat. We'll regularly watch the morning show from Liverpool, England. Love the content. James, thank you so much for saying that. I'd love to hear because we just never hear it. We always assume our listeners on the early edge or the early wedge are from the United States. But if you're from Canada, you're from Europe, you're from Asia, Africa, Australia, whatever it is, I love hearing that. It's really cool to hear that from across the pond, you are listening to us. Trying to find more questions. Forgive the stall tactics here. Let's see. Oh, who do we pick from the next to parlay with the Scotty win? Do you have any thoughts there, Josh?
No, I'd be lying to you if I said it.
Yeah, that's totally fair. Let's see, Kyle. Okay, I think if we missed your question, that's my fault, and you can kind of put it back in the chat, and maybe I'll see it before we close out. But Josh, I guess final thoughts. You said JT was kind of your guy. Is that like your? I don't know how many outrights you bet a week, or anything like that. But if you were betting, is it? Or if you are betting, is it JT and are there a couple other guys that you like here?
Yeah, I like JT quite a bit. If you just think about JT without the majors, I think lots of people will go to JT here. We're just on the back of an open. I'm pretty sure that I don't think he's played since then.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's part of the reason why. But he's been unbelievably good this year outside of the majors.
Yeah.
So I like him a lot. Obviously, I like Scotty.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, that's me going way out to left field. I really like Aaron Rye this week.
Yeah.
It's a little bit like no duh. I feel like a little bit, but he is hitting the cover off the golf ball, like 15 strokes in approach the last 2 weeks. That's crazy stuff. He was another guy who popped on my top 10 table quite a bit. He's just 58th in this field in putting over the last 36 rounds. So that's why he's not jumping off the page, I'm sure. But from a ball striking perspective, there aren't many guys who hit fairways like Aaron Rye and just swing the club full like he does.
Yeah, Aaron Rye makes a lot of sense. I'll look at this last question here. Joseph Boza says, DFS, are there any bad buys that we should stay away from? I don't know that there's a great answer to that question. I do think when you get below 6,300, you're really taking a risk in the sense that I don't know that the way some of these guys are playing that are, let's say, below Jacob Bridgman have a chance to string like 2 great rounds together. But you can go ahead and take that gamble if you want to, Joseph. But I would probably, particularly in the 7K range, I'd probably avoid some of the really popular guys. Like I'm seeing Harris English. And again, this could change. Harris English is pretty popular. He's in the 8K range, mind you. Wyndham Clark getting a decent amount of ownership. It all makes sense there. I would find a way to construct your lineup so that you have a couple low-owned guys in there. And some of the stars and scrubs build, you can do that. But if you're not doing stars and scrubs, I would make sure you're not playing everybody that's popular. And again, I'm going to live in that. Some of these guys are somewhat popular, but they're not like booming. I'm going to live in that Aaron Rye, Cameron Young, Ben Griffin, Chris Goddard range to some degree. And it's part of the reason for that is because of what we talked about on the front end of the show with all the stuff kind of floating around them, Ryder Cup and all that stuff, but also because they're playing really well. And I just think that if you pull a few guys from that roster construction, that's not a stars and scrubs lineup, you might be a little different than some of the people. Also, just a recommendation, if you're going to play the super big contest, you really have to be different. And I would highly recommend playing some of the smaller contests that have 200, 300, maybe even like 1,000. But if you're in a 20,000 person contest and you're just playing the guys that you hear about on podcasts like this and all the other podcasts, you're probably not going to get anywhere with a build like that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I think that'll do it. Zach Kasenki says who wins. So Josh, we heard your answer. I'm going to go with my one and done. I'm going to go with Victor Hovland, but I think Fleetwood, well, listen, Scotty Scheffler's going to win. I'm not even considering Scotty Scheffler's winning, but in the without Scotty Scheffler market, I'm going to go with Victor Hovland. Sam Burns is almost a FOMO play for me. I don't know that I actually think he can finish second place here, but I think Fleetwood and Hovland very much can. So that's who I'm going with. All right, that'll do it. Josh, any final thoughts here?
We'll talk about it more on Sunday, I'm sure, but this is a really good live betting tournament with the water all over the place, especially on the back nine. If you remember, like last year, Hideki was winning this tournament by like half a dozen and then had like three bogeys and a double on the back nine before making 2 birdies in a row to win by 2 again. But, you know, you have the island green on 11, 12 has lots of water. The par 3 14th on Sunday, the pin's probably going to be back right just over the water. So like there will be guys who stuff it there and there will be guys who fan it out right and put it in the water. 15 can be weird with the creek. Like it is, there's a reasonable chance that somebody who's way far back with 9 holes left shoots like 3 or 4 under on the back 9, and the guy who's leading shoots 39, and we have like a crazy swing. So we'll talk about it more, like who those guys could be, but I keep an eye on some of those numbers. Like there could be a really good one that comes back into play.
We'll be going at 10:30 in the morning on Sunday on this SportsLine YouTube channel. Josh will be helping us out there, but it'll also be, of course, Patrick McDonald, Jason Sobel, and Mike McClure. We like that. I really like that show. I think the conversation is really good. We also preview the following tournament. So we'll be talking about Caves Valley and the BMW Championship, but it's mostly a show talking about live betting, live outrights, round scores, matchups that are on the board still. Again, 10:30 in the morning, there's still a lot of golf to be played. Most of the people, like half the field hasn't teed off by the time we start the show. So there's a lot of meat on the bone, if you will. I will say this, the network show on Friday, it's going to be in the middle of the round, but typically, Josh, what you all do is you cut that up and you actually put it on the SportsLine YouTube channel later. So there might be some nuggets from that show from a live betting standpoint that you can take. So look out for that. Maybe I would say Friday late afternoon, Friday early evening, because that's going to be posted on the SportsLine YouTube channel. Right, Josh?
Yeah, somewhere around that show is at 1, I think, this week. It should be up on this channel 3:30 or so. So it won't be completely current. Obviously, things will have changed from the live from when the show was airing. But you're right, there will be nuggets. There will be thought processes about the weekend that will definitely be useful.
Awesome. All right. That'll do it. We went an hour. That was a really fun show. Josh, thanks for being on the front of the camera instead of behind the camera. You absolutely crushed it like you always do. Go ahead.
Oh, I couldn't leave. At the top of my notes page is my all-time sitcom characters because you tweeted about it. And
yes, it's still pinned to my profile. If anybody wants to jump in.
I stopped in the middle of prep for the show when I saw the tweet to write down my list. If I don't have somebody obvious on this list, it's probably because I haven't seen it. I'm not being a hater, I swear. Mine are Chandler Bing, Barney Stinson, Charles Boyle, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Schmidt from New Girl, who is just like he makes me like laugh so hard. I just think he's hilarious. And then Michael Scott but that's more of I just think there aren't very many actors who have done a better job with the character than I think Steve Carell did with Michael Scott. He's not my favorite, like there are other characters on that show that I'm a bigger fan of, but the assignment that Steve Carell got with Michael Scott was executed flawlessly. So those are my 5. And then Phoebe is honorable mention. She would be.
I was on Pat Mayo's show yesterday for this tournament. You guys can go listen to that if you want. Josh, you're going to hate this. I like your top 5. I said on that show, because we talked golf, but then at the very end, we talked about the challenge, the challenge, the MTV show, which I love. And we talked about this sitcom thing that we've been tweeting about over the last couple of days. I uttered these words. Josh, you're going to hate me for this, but I have to come clean.
Sure.
I said that I think Phoebe is one of the worst sitcom characters of all time.
Wow.
Like maybe I'm not in on the joke. Like I get like her whole shtick, but every time she spoke, I was like, I hate this.
I can see that. She benefits from, I would say that about Ross and Rachel. I think Ross is one of the worst TV show characters of all time.
Interesting.
He drives me crazy. So she benefits a little bit like Chandler. She just benefits from like purity. Like she's just there to have a good time and doesn't spend a whole lot of time making me upset from a character perspective. And then it all ends up fine to the end for her. So she benefits from that for sure.
I like the Barney Stinson call. I've done some sitcom shows before with Pat from like a couple of years ago, and we had a whole bracket thing, and I'm kind of embarrassed about it because I didn't include New Girl because I'd never seen New Girl, and I still haven't seen New Girl. And everybody, when they saw the bracket, they were like, "How could you not include New Girl?" And I'm like, "I'm so sorry, I didn't realize it was that popular." But I don't know where I was going with that, but I've definitely been giving out a lot of takes, and it's always fun to talk about. Mutanda says, "See, I can't believe you like the challenge." Huge fan here. I love it. Do you watch the challenge, Josh?
I do not. I do not know.
Yeah, it's a great show. Matanzas is not happy about
Matanzas
your
is mad
loss
at me
take.
too. He's happy with you and he's mad at me. So that's perfect. That's media in a nutshell. As long as everybody, hates one of us and loves the other, then we've done an okay job.
But I had alleged back in the day, 2 years ago, when we were doing those sitcom shows, that Barney Stinson was a top 10 character all time. And so
good.
I mean, you have him top 5, but I think he's a top 10 character all time.
He's don't worry, Matanzas. I don't actually think we're having an excellent time here. He's also just the idea of Neil Patrick Harris playing Barney Stinson, just like the polar opposites of who he is as an actual human and how good he is as Barney Stinson is another thing I just have an abundance of appreciation for. Yeah.
So true. Oh my gosh, we could talk about this. Hey, we got to do like a social hour, or pop culture hour or something like that. We got to put that on the list of things to do on this channel, but that will wrap it up. Thank you, Josh. Thank you everybody for being in the chat. And if you have any takes on this, chime in. Again, I pinned the tweet to my profile, but tweet at us, tweet at Josh. Let us know who your top 5 sitcom characters are, maybe your top sitcoms. Josh, this show has been legend.
Wait for it. Dairy.